Hi, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Rena, and welcome to
Biopic, a podcast story. This is a podcast where we dissect the good, bad, ugly, and absurd of this specific genre of motion picture, the biopic. If you want to learn more about us, our scoring system, and how we choose movies, please check out our special introductory episode, Introduction, Who Are We and What Are We Doing?
Sarah, what movie are we doing this week?
This week, we will be talking about 2019's Dolemite Is My Name, starring Eddie Murphy as Rudy Ray Moore, a.k.a. Dolemite.
But first, we have an important announcement.
Biopic, a podcast story, is speaking at Intelligent Speech Online. This year's theme is Companions and Rivals, and we will be talking about Truman Capote's friendships and doppelgangers in Capote and Infamous, the two Truman Capote writes in Cold Blood movies that came out within a year of each other in 2005 and 2006. Intelligent Speech is a veritable three-ring circus of content composed of 4 virtual rooms running simultaneous 40-minute sessions. These sessions include esteemed keynotes, fascinating and thoughtful creator presentations, or lively roundtable discussions followed by a Q&A with the audience. These Q&As, together with space and time for separate chats, create a unique experience in which members of the community can engage directly with the creators they follow. This online conference is taking place on February 28th, 2026, and your ticket not only includes live attendance, but also access to recordings of all the sessions after the event to watch at your leisure. And tickets are available now at intelligentspeechonline.com.
Enter biopic, that's BIOPIC, at the checkout for 10% off, because we sent you.
Yes.
And if you ask extra nicely during the Q&A, I may tell you the story of the time that I chatted up Harper Lee in the emergency room line at New York Presbyterian.
It happened. And also, it is the day before Rena's birthday, so it is an opportunity to celebrate.
Yes, I would love to see you there.
And, Rena, can you give us the trigger warning for this week's movie?
This movie contains depictions of and or references to racism, blaxploitation movies, drug abuse, exploitation of hapless street people, inauthentic and poorly executed martial arts moves, sex work, shag carpeting, synthetic velour, political corruption, prison, drug abuse, homelessness, nepo babies, stealing electricity from your neighbors with zero consequences, wigs, fat shaming, dysfunctional families, diners, and financial risk, and also white ladies who are completely out of our depth.
Indeed. Rena, can you give us the spoiler warning?
Spoiler warning. We are going to spoil everything, including possibly the major plot points in works of narrative art having nothing to do with this particular movie. Consider yourself warned. Some of the sources we used in this episode include Black Caesars and Foxy Cleopatras, A History of Blaxploitation Cinema by Odie Henderson, an article from Bustle called Rudy Ray Moore's Real Life is Just as Wild as the Story of Dolemite Is My Name, another article from USA Today fact-checking the movie, about the Nepo baby DP, Nicholas von Sternberg. There was an article from the UCLA.edu site, and another one from filmtalk.org. We also will be including in the show notes some resources on the history of the Dunbar Hotel, which is a key part of the action here. And both of us watched Dolemite. I watched Superfly. Sarah has occasionally seen a blaxploitation movie, and as always, our sources include the internet.
I have a couple sources that we will get to organically in the conversation. Rena, can you tell us a little bit about Rudy Ray Moore, who is best known as his character Dolemite?
Rudy Ray Moore was born on March 17th of 1927 and died on October 19th of 2008. What happened in between? The internet and the movie that we just watched say that he was from Arkansas, but the book that I read says that he was from Alabama. He served in the Army and then spent a couple decades trying and failing to make it in showbiz within comedy, music, and what have you. What made me really happy this week is that Dolemite is My Name is the story of a middle-aged person who, when the world is telling them you're ordinary, you're nobody, you're nothing, you're average, you're unremarkable, you're not special, somehow had the courage, gumption, and optimism to say nope to the universe and find that hook anyway. It made me really happy to see him enjoying his eventual success in a way where people who get famous when they're young and aren't grateful for the pluses that come with it don't appreciate it. It took him so long to find a spark that could take fire, and you could see that he really appreciated the gift of people coming to see him and being able to make them happy when it finally came to him. And I love a story about someone who takes off in midlife or later. So many things out there are a young person's game. And oddly enough, that trajectory of his life reminded me of Milk, because it's the story of someone whose star takes flight in midlife.
And you're the first person to compare Rudy Ray Moore to Harvey Milk, but you may go on.
So, in his early 40s, while Rudy Ray Moore is working in a record store in Los Angeles, having failed at fame, Thalia, muse of comedy, sends him a lightning bolt of divine inspiration in the form of a substance-abusing street person named Ricco, who kept wandering into the record store. The term that Odie Henderson uses to describe Ricco is wino, and the 90s style politically correct phrasing for Ricco's situation is unhoused American. Ricco keeps wandering into the store, and here, from pages 491 to 492 of Black Caesars and Foxy Cleopatras, A History of Blaxploitation by Odie Henderson, here is the tale of what happened. A wino named Ricco came into the store and performed storytelling raps for food. Ricco's tales were about a bad motherfucker named Dolemite. Dolemite's verbal antics and sexual bragging kept the store's patrons in stitches. Moore decided to take Ricco's stories, polish them up using his stand-up skills, and perform them in his act. So he got Ricco high on weed and recorded everything he knew about Dolemite. Dressed as the flyest pimp who ever wielded a cane, Rudy Ray Moore stepped on stage and told the audience, "Dolemite is my name, and fucking up motherfuckers is my game." The rest is history. This show has an explicit warning, but we will be saying motherfucker an abnormally greater percentage of the time than usual in this episode. So, one thing that troubled me in researching the Dolemite is My Name episode is that I could find no evidence that Ricco ever got anything out of Rudy Ray Moore beyond enough joints and booze for Moore to fill the tape with the material that he needed to make an act out of Dolemite. I don't know what Moore owed him or if I'm judging him unfairly. It seems sort of unjust to me that Ricco never got, so far as I can tell, help with his mental health or dentures or something out of his contribution. I don't know if he was owed that or if this falls under, if this is a dark side to the adage that good artists borrow and great artists steal. I kept waiting for him to pop back up in the movie, but it seems like Ricco did what marginalized people have been doing since time immemorial, which is to melt away.
I had a lot of queasiness around the lack of closure around the Ricco story. It did remind me of on Seinfeld when Jay Peterman buys all of Kramer's stories. But anyway, I digress. Please go on.
I suspect the character of Dolemite, in terms of, well, there's the question of where is Ricco getting the initial material from, and I suspect that the character of Dolemite has some roots in prison culture, which are alluded to, and in folklore, and that those are the influences that Ricco was drawing on. But I am not an authority on this, and nobody portrayed in the movie appears to be taking any sort of academic interest in the cultural evolution of the Dolemite character, or in deconstructing it in a comp-lit kind of way. It seems like Moore is a hustler, he saw something on the margins, and he knew he'd mined gold. I don't know everything, but that's my perception. Rudy Ray Moore starts performing as the Dolemite character in clubs, and his career rapidly, finally, after decades of waiting and dreaming, takes off. Moore makes albums. The industry tells him there's no interest. The albums sell anyway. The industry relents. Moore makes a movie. The industry says there's no interest. People love the movie anyway. The industry relents. Moore makes a few more movies as Dolemite, and is eventually, thanks to his rhyming style, credited as a godfather of hip-hop, and we'll get into this as we talk through Dolemite Is My Name, which, to all evidence, he was quite close to the real story. We picked this movie because we wanted to do something fun and lighthearted in between Selma and Hidden Figures, and we thought, oh, it's Eddie Murphy. But I went into this having never seen a blaxploitation film.
When you told me this, it was really the least shocking thing I've ever heard you say.
I realized that I was out of my depth here, but despite our personal lack of authenticity to the subject matter or relation to it in Dolemite or Dolemite Is My Name, we decided not to chicken out on doing what I said we'd do, and we are trying to treat everything here with respect and to admit when we don't know what we're talking about.
It made me cry because I was so delighted by it.
I was so happy. Like, this is the happiest a movie has made me since we did Temple Grandin.
Yeah.
This episode is going to be full of comparisons that no one thought Rudy Ray Moore or Dolemite would ever garner to people no one would compare them to.
And I love the micro genre of filmmaking that is, let's make a movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I love movies about this, and I love to be dismissive of haters who don't appreciate the sincerity of the love of creating something.
Sarah, can you please tell us a little bit about the 2019 film Dolemite Is My Name?
Absolutely. So this was directed by Craig Brewer, and it was written by Scott Alexander and Larry Karaszewski. We've come across these individuals and we'll come across them again. Craig Brewer first came to prominence with the film Hustle and Flow in 2005, followed that immediately with Black Snake Moan in 2006. He's directed a lot of strong television, like Terriers and Empire are both really notable here. He also did the movie Tarzan, the one with Alexander Skarsgård and Margot Robbie. He did Coming to America, which was the sequel. And he also just made the movie Song Sung Blue about the Neil Diamond impersonators. And he's on deck to direct the Snoop Dogg biopic, which I think we talked about in our preview app. Scott and Larry, as I shall call them, have graced our show before with Ed Wood, which I think this film really mirrors in a way. And we'll see them again as they wrote The People versus Larry Flint, Man on the Moon, Big Eyes, and also the mini-series, which we won't cover, The People versus O.J. Simpson, American Crime Story. They also wrote Problem Child and Problem Child 2, which I just thought was worth mentioning. These are all people who know their way around a biopic. And Eddie Murphy actually met with Scott and Larry first in 2003 to start talking about this movie. They interviewed Rudy before his death to start working on this. So this was a long dormant and long dreamed of project for Eddie Murphy. It premiered at the Toronto Film Festival. It went into a brief limited release and then was on Netflix. And it was really highly regarded, and I'll get into the awards later.
I watched Dolemite in preparation for this episode, and it made me realize that I need to watch at least one or two movies a week that are not biopics, because I immediately started analyzing the action in Dolemite as if it were a biopic.
I agree with the need to get outside of the biopic realm, so strongly support that action.
It's a hoot, but it was the first blaxploitation movie I ever saw, so I watched Superfly so that I'd have something else to wrap my head around. Can you tell us a few things about watching Dolemite, Sarah?
My initial reaction, so I watched Dolemite as film. I didn't realize it was in any way a parody until after I watched it and started reading about it. I took the entire experience of watching this movie with the most unironic face value within the confines of blaxploitation. And I mean, this movie was a huge success. They made it for an estimated $100K and it made $12 million.
Whoa.
But I sort of just sat in awe of the entire affair. But before we even get into that, I want to talk for a minute about what blaxploitation is. It is, of course, a portmanteau of black and exploitation. The term was coined by Junius Griffin, who was, at the time, it was in 1972, president of the Beverly Hills and Hollywood branch of the NAACP, as criticism of the genre and its portrayal of Black people and perpetuation of stereotypes. And that controversy around what blaxploitation is and whether it is service and criticism persists. Now, you mentioned that we're in over our heads. I am Homer Simpson backing into the bush .gif on this topic. I don't have a place in the debate, and I'm not taking it on whether blaxploitation is good or bad. What I personally like about the genre in what I have seen, which expands far beyond the quote criminal. I like that these are full-bodied characters. These are movies that are made by Black actors, writers, and directors. They were centered on telling stories of all kinds about the Black experience in America for a Black audience. I love the fashion. I love the fights. I loved the energy of watching Dolemite. You see the DIY energy. And I also I always want more people to have a place at the table and be in the conversation. There's always room for more art and entertainment. And Rudy Ray Moore and then this genre on a level, we're speaking to a very underserved audience. Some of the movies that fall into the vertical of blaxploitation, they mentioned Cornbread Earl and Me, which is a very early Lawrence Fishburne film. He's a child in it. I mean,
the way they describe it in there, it's I don't want to watch this.
It is not what you think of when you sort of think of the platonic ideal of blaxploitation. It proves that it's a much broader genre. And I'm also going to mention Cooley High.
I want to see that. It sounds really good.
It is really good. And it is a film that is fun and full of humor until the last 10 minutes, at which point it kicks you in the gut, and it has amazing music. My take is that the genre is broad, and I think there's room for everybody and for everything. Mm-hmm. So as film, I thought this was really pretty stylish given the budget. The shots are constructed with a lot of care. You see that the budget is really well allocated in terms of really solid shot construction. Hiring the people who know about cameras and lighting, I think, was a really good use of their budget.
Well, the DP, as we'll see, learned something from the best.
It's a fun movie. And yes, the fists don't connect in the fights and things like that.
The feet in a kick do not connect to the stomachs, chests, knees, groins they're intended to connect with, but the other person somehow falls back.
I think the gambit of why Dolemite is leaving prison does require you to be flexible around plot details, but there's a lot of things, including the works of best-selling author Colleen Hoover, that require you to suspend a little bit of disbelief in order to just have a good time.
Yeah, there have been many, many excellent podcasts humorously deconstructing all of the things that do not make sense in Dolemite, such as the warden somehow having the power to let people out of prison, murders that people get away with, or how at one point there's a debt that needs to be taken care of where you think there's going to be drama around it, and it turns out that the character with the debt just has $50,000 lying around so they can get onto the next plot point. I just started doing that here, and I said we weren't going to do that here.
Because I was watching it the way I was watching it, I took it as a low-budget action film that got really solid performances out of a lot of non-actors and amateur actors. It had a fun story. It moved along. And I know what I'm about to say, and I will own it forever, elements of this film that are not dissimilar from A Mean Streets or A Killing of a Chinese Bookie. Like, there is a really wonderful combination of raw, relentless enthusiasm of Rudy and his team, along with people who knew a bit about making movies, that resulted in a solid piece of entertainment. That was my takeaway of the film experience. So yeah, should we break down this movie?
Yes, let's do it.
We open on Eddie Murphy talking to Snoop Dogg about playing an album that he has put together. This is the America where sometimes just insisting on yourself can make you a success, provided you have a pretty broad view of what success is. I'm here for it. And Eddie Murphy is way too handsome to play Rudy Ray Moore. Mm-hmm. However, he gets the carriage right. Rudy is more like an average dude you see in your day-to-day life. I love Eddie Murphy. He's kind of a weird dude and a serious dude in some ways, but he's also really, really funny. And I mentioned in here that he is a force for good because of what he did to John Landis on the set of Coming to America. I love that Eddie Murphy shamed John Landis because John Landis is kind of a bad dude.
Yeah, so we open on Rudy, as you said, trying to talk to Snoop, the DJ in the record store where he works, and he wants him to play one of his old records, and Snoop is unreceptive. So welcome to the show, Snoop Dogg. You are joining a rarefied club of people who have appeared on this show being played by someone else, and then also appeared in a movie playing somebody else. Other members of the club include Gene Seberg, who played Joan of Arc in St. Joan and was played by Kristen Stewart in Seberg, Kirk Douglas, who starred in Spartacus and was played by Dean O'Gorman in Trumbo, and Elizabeth Taylor, who played the title role in Cleopatra and was played by Lindsay Lohan in Liz and Dick. Other members include John Wayne and John Gavin, and an upcoming member is Janet Leigh, who we saw played by Scarlett Johansson in Hitchcock, who will be turning up when we get to the Vikings, because I need more Kirk Douglas. And possible future members include Clark Gable, Ronald Reagan, Ava Gardner, Sidney Poitier, and Martin Balsam.
Indeed. Snoop is so annoyed at this request and by Rudy's wheedling that he breaks the fourth wall to roll his eyes at us. And
Rudy tells Snoop, who's been saying that they want me to play Marvin Gaye, Rudy tells him Marvin Gaye ain't shit and refuses to accept the idea that his shot isn't coming.
So I would mention that here it is delightful, this perseverance, but this also has a history of being kind of a double-edged sword on this show. Like that relentlessness and refusal to accept no as an answer. It ended up well in Ed Wood, didn't go so well in Star 80. It's a mixed bag what people do with refusing to let go of their dreams.
Except us.
Yes.
So we see Rudy working in the record store, and we begin to meet his buddies and co-workers, including a delightful performance by, welcome back to the show, Tituss Burgess, and costumes which are excellent and authentic and just the right amount of weathered in are by repeat MVP Ruth E. Carter, who did Selma last week.
And we see that Rudy has like a regular club gig where he performs. His jokes are quite terrible.
Yeah, his jokes are pretty bad. He goes to MC. He is indefatigable. He asks the club owner to put him on the marquee and gets a big old no. And enter the always amazing Craig Robinson.
So happy to see him here. Like, this had to be a super fun movie to make. And
yeah.
I don't want anyone to tell me otherwise.
There are so many people in this movie who nail their delivery memorably, any line you give them, or even just in terms of how they hold space when they're not even speaking.
Yes.
So the club owner thinks that Rudy is a hack, which he sort of is at this point, and tells him that vaudeville is dead. We see a scene where they're discussing a Red Fox party album in the store, and enter Ricco.
So Ricco in this film is played by Ron Cephas Jones, who has a list of credits as long as the CBS receipt. And his daughter Jasmine also played Peggy in the original Broadway cast of Hamilton. Ricco introduces Dolemite as a concept and is making everyone laugh. And now we're in a Pulp Fiction diner with Craig, Tituss, and Mike Epps.
Rudy and Tituss quibble over who has to get to kick Ricco out of the store. Ricco says, "I ain't no hobo, I am a repository of African-American folklore." And, like, we get this sense that there's some roots in folklore and, like, prison culture and a space where the Dolemite character comes from, but this is not... I can't even begin with this. This is someone's master's thesis, and I'm not going to touch it without making an idiot of myself here. So Rudy and his friends in the diner talk about the Dolemite jokes and relate them to prison culture, and Rudy contemplates, how do I polish up this Dolemite material? So I'll admit, the fine Dolemite performances, they don't make me laugh all that hard, but it isn't in my wheelhouse. It's not, I am not the one he's speaking to, and that's perfectly fine. So Rudy is mildly depressed after leaving the diner, and he goes to Hobo Central around the Dunbar Hotel to look for Ricco. So some notes on the Dunbar Hotel. One of the bums says that he saw Duke Ellington and Billie Holiday there, and all of the exposition in this film comes through really naturally in conversation, but the Dunbar Hotel is a long, fascinating story. Anyway, Rudy pays the hobos cash and booze for the Dolemite stories and records them, and then he goes home and polishes it, and you see his energy and his joy and his confidence increasing as he practices and realizes he's onto something, and he pulls a big puffy wig out of a box to put on to become Dolemite. And this is that moment that we see in a number of movies where the superhero gets his uniform, or in the case of the biopic, like, the person adapts that signature thing that we think of with them. So some examples of that are Temple Grandin putting on the cowpoke shirt and the pin for the first time, and Peter O'Toole as Lawrence of Arabia looking at his reflection in the knife when he tries on the white robes. Again, comparisons that nobody would have thought of making to Dolemite.
Spoilers, man, for Lawrence of Arabia.
That's why we do the spoiler warning. I don't want to have to not think about what to not say.
So Rudy shows up to his regular gig in full character, Andy Kaufman style. To me, like, creating this character is far superior than, like, obnoxious shit that NYU kids do, or what I would have definitely done for my senior project if I went to Bard, which would have probably been, like, cultivating a character over the course of a semester and performing it. So I'm here for it.
I'm glad you didn't go to Bard, Sarah. So the club owner, when he first sees Rudy come in, tells him to stick to his regular set. Of course, he ignores him. The crowd is rapidly eating out of his hand, and he's enjoying finally being loved by an audience. And the musicians on stage see what's happening. They adapt around him too. It's really, it just makes me really happy.
Like, and he is loving it. And we cut to his aunt's home. This kitchen set design is bringing me so much joy. The authenticity of these sets is really next level. And just a shout out to the actress playing his aunt. Her name is Luenell Campbell. She goes by her first name, She works constantly. I was going through her IMDb, and she's one of those actors who has like 6 credits a year. So, yeah, and she's great in this.
So we have a little exposition that he has absolutely no desire to go back to Arkansas, and he is trying to get money out of the aunt for the album he wants to make, and gets like uncomfortably aggressive about it, I found.
Yes. And she rightfully points to a pile of boxes in the corner of her apartment that seemed to be whatever his last great idea was.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I'm still trying to get rid of these. And she is, encouraging him to do maybe something like that cute little Bill Cosby, as she puts it, which sigh. And he's all, I know you got money because you got hit by that bus. And she said something about, I think she said she only got $250. Like, tort reform is bad, people.
But yeah, he holds what appears to be a butter knife to her throat and cut to a house party to record the album.
Yes. And everyone loves him.
Yeah, so the crowd loves his performance. The record exec that he goes to see does not.
Nope. And they're arguing about the language on the album and everything, and walks out. We just got into a legal semantics argument about cocksucking, as I think my favorite line in the movie.
Yeah, and then there's, in terms of more how they sell the album, we have this great montage of the album's success, and I love the way that he spots who in his crew is good for what. Like, he spots that Tituss Burgess has business acumen, but it's a kind that is not easy to come by, harder to spot, and not always appreciated, which is he is good with numbers and the practicalities of how you run a business, how you stay on budget, how you delegate, how you do the soft management.
Yeah, and that's a gift to be good at that.
And it's also a gift to be someone who can spot it, because it's under the radar. It's not the flashiest thing to appreciate. I guess generally I have so much appreciation for competence and all the little things. I'm an institutionalist, so when someone is being praised and noticed for these things we don't appreciate, it makes me very, very happy.
Yeah, competence is beautiful. It's why I like watching The Pit so much. I'm like, look at these people just being good at their jobs. Because there aren't a lot of places to look for that right now.
No.
And I think what's interesting here too is that you see that, you see why representation matters in a business here, because this is a huge success within his community. And there's an utter disconnect within the industry to recognize that there is a community that would be responsive to this. And it reminded me a lot of when Diary of a Mad Black Woman came out, which was the first Madea movie. Critics savaged it. They hated it. It has like a 19% on Rotten Tomatoes. Variety said it was an ungainly hodgepodge of vaudeville-style comedy, turgid soap operatics, and joyful epiphanies. They completely disregarded Tyler Perry as an artist and as a job creator because cultural gatekeepers to this day are mostly white men. And, this was a movie that when it came out, it had a $5 million budget and it made $21 million opening weekend, despite this very negative critical consensus. And it cemented Tyler Perry, who, as I said, is a job creator, is kind of a descendant of, I would say, of the schools, probably more blaxploitation than from like the LA Rebellion. It's just an interesting thing to see in this movie, and an interesting subtext to have is the cultural gatekeepers really don't understand. Just because you're a white man doesn't mean you understand everything. I am so sorry to inform you. And not everything has to be made for you. Like, as you said, you don't get the comedy of this. I was like, I'm not 100% on board with this comedy either, but it's not for me.
It's
And
not for me. It doesn't have to be. Everything shouldn't be.
yeah, everything shouldn't be for me. And look at all the people it is making happy. So everybody take all the seats. I don't want to turn this into like a Chautauqua about movie marketing and about like cultural gatekeepers and whatnot. And who's more qualified to discuss it than you and I, two white ladies? But there is a much bigger conversation that this movie kind of like spurned in my brain around the idea of like representation in art, and also the limiting power of having our gatekeepers be these homogenous individuals and our critics being a homogenized community, and then like them being surprised when someone likes something that they don't like. And wouldn't the world be a better place? Like we just saw this with the Super Bowl, if we allowed other things to exist and appreciated them for what they are. So basically like the record company realized is like, oh damn, we are missing out on some money. And they decide like, okay, we're going to get in the business of this. And they do the most insanely raunchy photo shoot for the cover of this album.
Yeah, and we see, he has dad bod. I guess seeing him as a sex object in the movie, I suppose it helps men who look a certain way to feel seen. That is some phrase that I've heard for Dolemite. But yeah, it involves bananas, and he has zero muscle definition, dad bod.
Modern Records is the name of the record company that they get aligned with. And you mentioned here also that he pays Auntie back, which is nice.
He should pay her back. He threatened her
he
life
should.
with a butter knife. I mean, that felt like he was being playful, but it also felt like...
it is a knife.
It was icky, yeah.
Enter the film, the amazing Divine Joy Randolph. And I was like, just thinking about her name, and I was like, her mother knew exactly what she had. Like that baby came out and she's like, I know what I have here. And this is a star. Do you want to talk a little bit about Lady Reed?
Rudy Ray Moore is going to perform. He's performing Dolemite at a club, and there's this raunchy singer having a girl shake her ass in front of the mic. But this girl and her very shapely ass is not what he notices. He sees Lady Reed across the bar waiting for her man that she's about to break up with, and he watches her from behind the curtain like it's her show that he's at, and he just knows that no matter how downtrodden she is in this world, no matter how down she's feeling, no matter what the world has done to her, this woman is a star.
I love this so much. I love that he makes her dreams come true and puts her in a world that she never expected to be in. I love this for her. I love this performance. I love this character arc.
Yes.
And I love that he sees people.
He sees people as their best selves over and over and over again when no one expects it. He tells her how to be a performer, and she becomes Queen Bee, and she mentions that she did used to sing backup in New Orleans, and he's like, I knew it. So one of the things they're shown doing on the road that I really loved, and it was probably out of resentment at the self-seriousness of Walk the Line, and it's this part where Dolemite and Lady Reed sing a duet where they're clearly parodying a certain kind of country western duet, particularly Johnny and June Carter Cash in the song. That it reminds me specifically of is Time's a Wastin', the one that goes, I got arms, let's get together. Anyway, no one needs to hear me sing. But they do this thing where they switch into these overly countrified country accents for the chorus, and this is at least 4 times more fun than Walk the Line, and I felt this joyful vindication at hearing country duets mocked that probably stems from my resentment at the experience of needing to do a deep analysis of Walk the Line, where they're just like, we'll suck together, and it made me so happy.
We see that he is becoming like a really huge star in his community. One of his album titles is I Can't Believe I Ate the Whole Thing. all of his album titles are filthy.
The first one is Eat Out More Often.
I mean, like, they're crazy album names. His album is crashed through to the Billboard charts.
His album is on the charts of my former employer, Billboard, and he comes back to LA to record more albums and returns to the record store a conquering hero, and he gets validation from Snoop.
Yes.
Where Snoop plays that old-time record that he had begged him to play at the beginning, and he realizes that Snoop is picking on him, but it's so lovingly done.
That song's a bop, too.
Yeah, and you see all these people in the store who, like, they're bopping to it, too. But where'd Ricco go? We never find out.
And the guys decide they're going to go to a movie, and they're discussing what to see, and someone's like Blackenstein and a couple other things, and then
they mentioned Shaft in Africa.
And Rudy's like, oh, we should go see the front page. Everybody says it's really funny, and it's Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau, and
this is a remake of the front page. There's an older version of it that you should probably see instead.
There's also an even more updated version called Switching Channels, I believe. That is, don't see that one.
No.
But yeah, they're all kind of watching it and sort of like, I don't get this.
They don't know why anyone's laughing in the theater, and it's I don't know if it's an awards bait film. It's a star vehicle built around Jack Lemmon, and it's not for them.
Yeah.
And you can, and I saw it through their eyes.
Yeah, I felt very bored watching, like, the little bits and pieces that we did see. I was like, I don't want to watch this movie either.
And it's like, I'm someone who that version of the front page would have been made for, because I like that rat-a-tat-tat of 30s and 40s dialogue. I'm a nostalgist for that. I like Jack. Right. I'm someone who the front page remake would have been made for, but I'm seeing it through their eyes here.
They walk out of the movie and Rudy's like, we can make a movie too. That movie had no titties, no funny, and no kung fu. And I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Not things I look for in a movie, but it's not about me.
No, but is Dolemite a more fun movie than this remake of the front page?
Oh, yeah.
He's like, we're making a Dolemite movie.
Yeah. So he goes to American International, which he thinks is a perfect fit, and he tells him about why he doesn't want to buy Dolemite and body shames him and talks about the movie with cornbread in the title. You see Dolemite's reaction to it and why he thinks this is a lame idea.
That is a movie that has no funny, no titties, and no kung fu in it also.
I love the details here. Like, there's this one scene where you see them walking down a street, you see that LA smog in the sunset, in the beginning strings of the sunset, and they walk past a store with a sign in the window that says Choir Robes $3.75, and all the details of the time are so lovingly caught. And he talks about his plans to make a movie.
I am loving their conversation about like how they're going to do this and who's going to do what, and it's fun.
Yeah, this movie is like a constant getting the gang together sequence, and the getting the gang together sequence is almost always the best part of any movie that features it. So he goes to a super serious live play to find a writer, and it's this play where, like, I laugh at, like, what type of way, the subject matter wasn't funny, but it was a very specific, hard, serious play, and I found myself, like, laughing at the specificity of it. And he spots Jerry Jones because he can appreciate people who operate outside his world, who have specializations that aren't his, and what they can do. He's very broad-minded. This writer is played by Keegan Michael Key, and actually, I felt like he did a better version of this It reminded me of his role in a vastly underappreciated show called Reboot, which ran for one season on Hulu, where his character in there is this Yale drama graduate who is on one of these very hokey family, like blended family sitcoms, and he leaves it because he wants to be taken seriously as an actor, and you see him auditioning to play a gangster after this, like mentioning his Yale drama background, and he's like, so you see him doing the reading and saying, but oh wait, what if I read this infused with a certain sensitivity, and going into like actor theory, and they're like, next.
Yeah, I loved him in this. He's immediately like, well, I can be humorous. And he's just so serious. So Jerry Jones was in addition to being a writer, he was also a working actor. He was in MASH, he was in The Long Goodbye, he was in a ton of television. But, this is where he really made his mark in the blaxploitation vertical. And he did end up returning to playwriting in the 90s. Yeah, and he's just like, you're doing this with me. And I love that everyone who comes into his orbit, at least in this film, cannot help but get on board.
Rudy has to find that like hook with him because he tells him like, and he finds that they're both from the same part of Arkansas and that they knew to get out. He's doing all the textbook things to get someone on board. And there's a scene of them working together. I love their creative process and this take on the writer's room. And that you see that Jerry understands storytelling economy and editing and knowing how much is too much to put in. Like he gives Rudy the okay on the all-girl kung fu army, but knows to tell him to stop short of exorcism.
He's like, I'll do that in the next one. There is, yes. And enter the film Wesley Snipes, I bow down. He is the man who launched Marvel. It is so good to see him here.
Yes. He's playing an actor named D'Urville Martin, who had a small part in Rosemary's Baby, which he loves to bring up later. And he plays Willie Green in Dolemite, and Rudy has gone to a strip club to look for actresses, and spots D'Urville Martin there. And Martin is unenthusiastic and until Rudy offers to let him direct, which, all actors want to direct. I love the meta stuff about film.
He also convinces his label to undersign on the film, basically by promising them every cent that he makes after making the movie on comedy albums if they will finance it. So they're on board.
Yeah, they're financing it against his future royalties and his confidence in himself. So Rudy and Jerry break into the Dunbar Hotel to use it for sets, and Rudy has made a deal with the landlord where he can use the hotel for free if he gets all of the junkies and drunks out of the hotel. And again, I'm like looking around for Ricco. No Ricco. So Jerry has found some UCLA film students, one of whom is the son of Joseph von Sternberg, who is a famous golden age of Hollywood and previously European director who worked heavily with Marlene Dietrich. And so, he winds up being extremely competent. He's part of why Dolemite is eminently watchable, is that his camera work is competent. And he worked with Bogdanovich. He goes on to a very respectable career in film. So, but nevertheless, I'm going to refer to him as Nepo Baby, or von Sternberg Nepo Baby, throughout this episode. So, and OMFG, the von Sternberg Nepo Baby, is played by Mandrax from Maria. So would be
Kodi Smit-McPhee, is the name of the actor.
And in Maria, he played this manifestation of her Quaaludes, who appears to her as a reporter interviewing her.
Can you believe we watched that whole movie? Jesus.
I don't think we would have done Maria if Sophia Lambton, who is an expert on Maria Callas and wrote an excellent biography of her, had not come on the show. Also, he's a baby. He looks freshly hatched. He's adorably awkward because, he's a film school kid. He's a director's son. He's completely out of his depth. And so are the people he wanders in with. It's so much fun. Just watching them all form a family over the course of this. And there's a hilarious scene of him and his UCLA film crew bugging out over the lack of resources. Like, where are we going to hide the lights if there's mirrors everywhere? And where are we going to put things? And the hotel is, of course, a massive wreck. And furthermore, there is no water or electricity. Rudy tells them, oh, just steal the electricity from next door. So they get a big old plug. Sparks fly everywhere. It's like someone could get killed, but they hook it up and like the lights come on.
Yes, and this film is competently lit. It doesn't look like stolen electricity.
I feel like this one bit of discontinuity that we see in Dolemite Is My Name, that I want to write it off as like tribute to all the things in Dolemite that don't make sense. It never catches up with them that they stole the electricity from next door to repower an entire hotel.
It could have been a thing where like it just they never got caught.
And then when the lights come on, and it's real to them that they're making a movie. There's the use of this recording of La Vie en Rose that sounds really old Hollywood, and it works so beautifully with like that the Dunbar is from another time. There's this wonderful little moment where you see Jerry Jones, the one who probably appreciates it the most, polishing the picture of Louis Armstrong that's in the glass case. And there's a poignant moment where you see them like removing this wreck of a piano that was probably a very nice piano at one point. But it's all coming alive. And also I love the way that he and Lady Reed support each other through the film.
Yes.
And then we do get our required unsupported dad moment where fortunately there's no flashback. Dad doesn't show up. He's just there in a photo that Eddie Murphy yells at while using something they say throughout the film about rat soup eating motherfucker.
Yes. Yes, they do love that.
It kind of becomes a little signature to them.
Yeah, and clearly he had some issues with his dad. I have a note here just, why wasn't Eddie Murphy nominated for an Oscar for this? Eddie Murphy is very good in this movie.
He is.
So you pointed out to me like that it's that they shoot it sequentially, which probably isn't the way they shot it.
I mean, shooting sequentially rarely makes sense for any movie.
Yeah.
So but that's what they show here, and I don't know enough about the making of Dolemite to know what that wasn't something I could really find material on as to whether it was shot sequentially, but I think that to a film audience, that's what they need to see.
Yeah, I think that it's very helpful to understand kind of the trajectory of the film, and how unbelievable the story is. To shoot it in sequence. I think it helps narratively. I mean, there's a possibility they could have shot it in sequence. Who the hell knows?
Because they didn't know what they were doing. Yeah.
And we see Lady Reed on the set, and she starts talking to the actor who looks just like the actor who played the warden. She asks him about his work, and he's like, I specialize in playing the bad white guy.
And he couldn't be a nicer man.
We see the movie start its direction process, and Wesley Snipes is, D'Urville is kind of a diva, more than kind of. And he's like, make it make sense. Make the story make sense. Eddie and Keegan-Michael Key do their level best to do that, but also kind of give it like the really who cares. And Wesley Snipes is like, fine. And starts shooting.
Yeah, there's a meta scene here that I loved so much, that I felt like it was fan service for people who've watched Dolemite, where it's this meta scene of Keegan, Eddie, and Wesley discussing all of the commonly cited things that make no sense about Dolemite, with the plot device of like that Wesley is asking them, what about this? And they're explaining the things like that wardens can alter prison sentences, or that you can leave the prison to prove your innocence, which actually I think isn't something Dolemite does. He just takes down the bad guy.
Yeah. He basically gets sent out to prove his innocence Kind of. Kind of.
But he also commits like multiple murders while on this furlough that never catch up to him.
Yeah, and murders for inexplicable reasons.
Of law officers.
Yeah. But this recreation is outstanding. It's very, very, very accurate. They really lovingly recreate these scenes, and it's so good.
Yeah, they do. Like they create like Dolemite's black and white. All the outfits they make are like copies of things you saw, and there are like little discrepancies. But so they shoot a flashback. They're shooting a scene of Dolemite dealing with some law officers. They're doing the kung fu, and he thinks that he's doing a great job. And you see, it's a kung fu where people get knocked out without your body actually connecting to theirs. And Wesley Snipes leans into Nepo Baby's ear and asks him, is there an angle you can shoot this from where it looks like he's actually, I can't remember if he says kicking them or beating them up, and Nepo Baby looks at him and tells him, honestly, there is no such angle.
This is so well delivered. Oh my God.
Yeah, and there's, so a key thing about Dolemite is that nobody seems to be aware, like they have Dolemite is sent to prison on trumped up drug charges. This key thing about Dolemite is that nobody seems to be aware that pimping, which is what Dolemite does for a living, is illegal. And he also runs a successful club. And this includes the cops who plant evidence on Dolemite in order to arrest him for drugs, the FBI, the governor, the prison warden, the mayor, the pimps, madams, and sex workers, which makes me wonder, is Dolemite set in our universe, or is there a DCU Dolemite cinematic universe where hard drugs are illegal, but pimping is not? And how does Martin Scorsese feel about it?
It's a great question. The world you're describing is not dissimilar to the one in which Travis Bickle lives. I have to laugh at the way that Dolemite is set up by the warden, where he's like, none of these people believe you. And I mean, just like kind of like looking at sort of the sequence of events that led to him getting charged, like Clarence Darrow would have crawled out of the grave to defend Dolemite, just in terms of like illegal search and seizure. And so anyway, so we're in that world. It's fine. It's great.
The thing they definitely don't touch on is like watching Dolemite. I thought, if you're a sex worker and you've learned a ton of badass kung fu moves, like, why don't you use it to beat up your pimp and get away from him exploiting you?
I mean, maybe they like their pimps. I don't know. It's a world where maybe that is a thing.
Well, yeah, it seems like the sex workers all really love their job, and you should love your job. And I guess the phrase that I would have for like the energy of so over on the Queen's podcast, Katie, who was our guest on the Tina Turner episode, had a phrase that she used, dickmatized, which seems to be the hold that Dolemite has over all of the Dolemite girls. Like, there's this one that they call Shy for Chicago, who has never met Dolemite and started working for Queen Bee while Dolemite was in prison, and she is just at him from the minute they bring him his clothes to change into when he leaves the prison. They're all just super into working for Dolemite, which I don't understand. And you just accept it and move along.
Yes.
And I mean, I'd rather watch a film where watch a film where if the sex workers stuck with a pimp all learn kung fu, they use it to beat up the pimp and manage their business themselves, assuming they're in this magical world where it's legal.
Yeah. No, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. But anyway.
So he has to shoot a sex scene. And he's really nervous about this, and it's really sweet.
You get to see Craig Robinson singing the theme song and how into it everyone is. And, if you don't want to sit through all of Dolemite, at least watch the opening credits. They're amazing. Sometimes you have a moment where, like, every touchstone that you've seen repeated, you see and I mean, Dolemite is not the original. There are blaxploitation films from before that also, I understand, have very memorable sequences, but I was watching it and I was like, oh, that's where that is, and my jaw just dropped because everything about it is so over the top. And yeah, he's nervous about the sex scene, and everyone is celebrating 4th of July together, and the group is bonding, and Lady Reed helps him with his body insecurities, and I love what a good job they did with the things they copy from the original Dolemite. Like, there's this gloriously tacky plush red bedroom.
Yep.
And you see what they've done with the sex scene is that they're moving the pictures up and down on the walls.
Yeah. It's so great.
Yeah. So I guess, I don't know if it happens in the background and I miss it, or it's just a thing they don't want to deal with. Like, there's this junkie named Creeper in Dolemite who he goes to for information. And I felt like the character of Creeper is Rudy Ray Moore wondering about what happened to Ricco.
Also, at this point, we find out they have run out of film to shoot on, and they need more money. No one is getting paid. So they get the record company to give them more money.
Yeah, and you see D'Urville standing in the background, directing Rudy through asking them for more money.
Yes. And it works.
And yeah, they're in the final big club scene, and D'Urville gives them some good advice on like what to tap into for it. They're shooting the final big scenes, which include Willie Green, the bad guy in Dolemite, and he shoots Dolemite in the chest. So Dolemite reaches into Willie Green's gut with his hand and pulls out what appear to be his intestines or sausage casings in like long ropes out of his body while standing there bleeding from a chest wound. And
this is amazing.
It really is.
Yes. In this movie and IRL film. And
I would love to watch this scene with a doctor or sitting next to me.
There's a moment in the movie Machete. Actor Danny Trejo throws a guy out of a second floor window by his intestines. So it made me think of that. And I wouldn't be surprised if Robert Rodriguez got the idea from that. But they finished the movie.
Yeah. And D'Urville does a real heel turn here, saying it's not a real movie. And everyone is bummed, but Rudy's friends boost him. And Nepo Baby, in a lovely moment of allyship, says that it's not over until you say the words, "It's a wrap." And then he directs Rudy through saying, "It's a wrap," like Dolemite would.
Yes. And Rudy immediately goes out and tries to sell the movie, and no one wants to buy it.
Nope. They go back to the diner, and he's super demoralized, and he goes back on the road.
Yeah. And Lady gives him some nice encouragement here. And then we're in Indianapolis, and Chris Rock is there as a radio DJ, and he starts asking, what's the deal with the Dolemite movie? And he's like, I don't know.
And Chris Rock is really annoyed, and he's like, what the fuck, I'm trying to help you. And he explains what's going on business-wise, and Chris Rock gives him the name of his cousin who has a movie theater.
Yep.
And Rudy gets out there and burns some serious shoe leather, promoting the heck out of Dolemite in Minneapolis.
I feel like Rudy is not at his full capacity unless he is being pushed back on. This is a natural setting for him to be like, I'm going to make this shit happen. I'm going to get people there. And everyone goes bananas for it.
And the for that first screening is a success. It's like wall to wall. And we have an uncredited performance from Bob Odenkirk.
Yes, as the head of Dimension Pictures. And he comes back and he's like, hey, this movie's making a lot of money. We would like to buy it and distribute it. And him and his whole crew show up and they're like, you better give us a good deal. He's like, we can distribute this. Otherwise, you're going to be walking around town with this movie for the rest of your life.
What he says is for the next 5 years.
Yes. And don't doubt that Rudy Ray Moore would do that.
And Odenkirk highlights that Dimension Pictures knows how to do a blaxploitation picture, which, yeah, a lot of white people made a lot of money off of blaxploitation pictures.
Don't love that.
No, but he says that he knows how to do a release on these, and he talks about about the old inner city movie palaces, and it's a shame because so many of these places are gone, and they were beautiful.
So he's now able to pay back the record company, and the movie's going to have a premiere. But first, we read a bunch of shitty reviews about the movie in the limo on their way there.
First, they're demoralized by it, and then Rudy says, actually, people are going to read this and want to see if all of the things they say are bad about it are true, because maybe that's what they're into, since these are the same people who thought that that Front Page remake they hated was a great movie.
It's not for those people. Like, can you imagine Bosley Crowther?
I wonder if Pauline Kael saw Dolemite.
She probably did. Then, before they can even really get very sad, they see the crowd that is turned out to see the movie, which is amazing. It's a huge crowd that is there, that is going to wait to see the next screening. The first screening is sold out. The second one is sold out. It's a huge moment where the audience is there for this movie. And they're about to go in. I loved this moment so much. I read a lot into this moment that probably isn't accurate, but he sees a little boy, like a chubby little sass man, who's talking to his dad about how he wants to see the movie, and Rudy sees him. He tells Lady to go on into the movie theater, and he's gonna talk to his audience, and he's going to talk to the people who came out to see the movie, which does go back to what you were saying about like seeing someone really enjoy the stardom that they're experiencing. I think like that connection that comes from like entertaining people and giving to them. And I think that it's something that a lot of artists just really live for and feed off of. And he has a very funny exchange of rhymes with this boy who you can tell he just made his life.
Yeah, when he hands him the cane, the kid is like, the look on his face is priceless, and I tried to figure out what famous rapper does this kid grow up to be, and I couldn't place it. It doesn't really matter. But it's like he sees that all these people are waiting outside. They're adding a 2 a.m. screening to see his movie, and he's going to make it where he's going to hang out with them all night while they wait. I was so just full of joy for him feeling appreciated, for them there's so much love here. And it made me really, really happy in a way that these movies don't always make me happy.
Yes. I couldn't help but see this too as like almost an inner child moment, not an inner child moment, but also, they go really light on what the deal was with him and his dad. They don't press us on that, but it's clear that like he didn't get along with his father, at least from the read of this movie. And I think he sees himself in that kid.
Yeah, but he sees that kid as a supportive dad, and I'm sort of like, oh my god, should you let your kid listen to his albums? I mean, the kid's gonna find those albums anyway. At least he has parental supervision at this rated R film.
I love that his dad was there with him to be like, you know what, you're into this? Let's do it.
Yeah, and the ending of Dolemite Is My Name is the most fulfilling ending that we've seen since Temple Grandin, but without the slaughterhouses.
I loved this. I loved watching it. I love seeing Wesley Snipes be funny in a movie. He's so good in Major League, if you ever should happen upon it. And he's so funny in that movie. It's really delightful to see him having a great time in a movie. It was delightful to see all of these actors seeming to have a really good time doing this. And also the beautiful end cap of him dedicating this movie to his brother, Charlie Murphy, who, was, in some ways kind of a Dolemite-esque character. Charlie Murphy was someone kind of on the fringes of comedy up until Dave Chappelle made a star out of him with Charlie Murphy's True Hollywood Stories. His bit on Chappelle's show suddenly catapulted him into stardom late in life, which is incredible, and great for him. And I think this is a great movie to dedicate to Charlie Murphy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I want to talk about this movie all night, but we're at the end.
We are.
So do we have any awards talk this week?
We do have awards talk. So this was really, really highly regarded when it came out. It had an approval rating of 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. Received a lot of favorable reviews. Certainly Eddie Murphy received a lot of positive reviews. The Costume Designers Guild nominated Ruthie Carter. Critics' Choice Awards, Eddie Murphy was nominated for Best Actor, also Best Costume Design. It was nominated for 2 Golden Globes, Best Motion Picture and Best Actor. It was one of the top 10 films of the year for the National Board of Review and received several NAACP Image Award nominations and also on Time Magazine's list of the best films that came out that year. Where it isn't is the Oscars. It did not receive any Oscar nominations, which is a loss. I think this is a really accomplished performance from Eddie Murphy. He's good in Eddie Murphy is always good. And I feel like he doesn't get the credit he deserves. I don't know that this is necessarily a Best Picture, but for Best Actor that year, I don't know why they didn't have a place for him. It was Joaquin Phoenix's year for The Joker, which no comment. He's a very talented actor, but I hate that The Joker is America's Hamlet. I hate it so much, I'm going to go blind. Why is that a thing? Also, that year, it was Antonio Banderas for Pain and Glory, DiCaprio for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Adam Driver for Marriage Story, and Jonathan Pryce for The Two Popes. So I don't see why there wasn't room for Eddie Murphy in there.
He does.
Do you have any choice dialogue?
I have a bunch, and there have been movies that had better scripts than this, but I didn't write up anything down because, for a variety of reasons, I may not get to writing anything down. But with this, I will cite first the repetition throughout the film of the epithet "rat soup eating motherfucker" stood out. But there were also lines like, "Some people walk around with their own little personal spotlight." Also, "Don't shh me, Sandy Duncan." And then something that Rudy says to Jerry, "We both left Arkansas for LA and we're doing the same hustle." There was an exchange between Craig Robinson and Tituss Burgess that I loved, where the film crew that they've hired there is a very high proportion of white people on the film crew that they've hired. And so Craig Robinson says to Tituss Burgess, "I ain't taking orders from them." Tituss Burgess replies, "You don't have to. You're the caterer. So just feed the honkies, okay?" And then something that Chris Rock has great delivery on, because he's Chris Rock. "It's like Christmas, except your daddy ain't drunk and your mama ain't crying." Yeah. Do you have any?
I called out mine that I was particularly fond of, which was We just got into a legal semantics argument about cocksucking.
Yes, which you flagged previously.
Yeah, that's my one. So much of it is the delivery too. It's like I can't say some of these things. Oh, and also just like there's no such angle. The way that was delivered.
There is no such angle. Sarah, can you please give our listeners a quick refresher about how we score movies?
We rate movies on a 1 to 10 scale across 10 areas that we find to be subjectively and or objectively important to most films, but specially tailored to specific issues particular to biopics. If you want more details on how we score movies, please scroll down our webpage at biopicapodcaststory.podbean.com. You'll also find a record of our scores for past episodes there. And with that out of the way, let's score this thing. So for outward appearances, makeup, and hair, I gave it a 10. Acting and casting, I gave it a 10. Passage of time, 5. Costuming, 10. Quality of the script, 7. Accuracy, 7. Storytelling, was it cliched, interesting, inventive, 6. Production value, 9. Production and direction decision-making, 9. And do we care, 7. And that comes out to a solid 8.0.
So, for outward appearances, makeup and hair, I gave it a 9. For acting and casting, I gave it a 9. For passage of time, 7. Costuming, 9.5. Quality of the script, 8. Accuracy, 7. Storytelling, was it cliched, was it interesting, was it inventive, 8.5. Production value, 9. Production, direction, decision-making, 9. Do we care, 8.5. And my total came to 8.45.
All right.
So, your score came to 8. Mine was 8.45. Dolemite is my name. Your combined score comes to 8.225, which means you have earned a second opinion.
Oh, hooray. So, second opinion is the element we stole from How Did This Get Made, the podcast.
The prize for scoring above an 8 or below a 4 is that you get to hear us make fun of IMDb reviewers who disagreed with our assessment of the film. So we have an embarrassment of riches this week when it comes to 1-star reviews for this movie. So I'll start with 1 star out of 10, title, If You Like Smut, written by WV Film Femme on October 29th of 2019. You will like this film. Rudy Ray Moore promoted and capitalized on scatological smut, and it's a shame that it was... Sarah, yes?
There were no poop jokes in this movie.
I was about to bring that up. There's no toilet anything, which I appreciate because poop humor makes me... I dry heave, basically. I hate it so much.
Okay, sorry, as you were.
Yes. And it's a shame that it was deemed worthy of a film. I stopped watching to research the history of Rudy Ray Moore. Yes, Eddie Murphy did a fine job in portraying him, and the film has admirable production qualities, but the subject matter is irredeemable. This film just perpetuates the idea that the black community approves and promotes such vile content. Shame on Eddie Murphy and the promoters of this film.
Okay. Again, no poop in this movie. So I've got 2 for us.
Okay.
This one's a 1 out of 10, titled Not Good at All, by Tricky Michael on October 24th, 2019. I did not find this entertaining at all. What the hell has happened to Eddie Murphy? I did not laugh, and story was dull. I would expect this type of dud from Adam Sandler, but not Eddie Murphy. I would stay away from watching. Just a waste of time.
Well, he's wrong.
Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
Okay, my next one is called What Did I Just Try to Watch? And this was written by entertainment-24-865952 on October 27th, 2019. Okay. Eddie is funny. Eddie can be an action star. He can be almost whatever. But here he is just boring. I really, really tried to watch this movie, but I just had to give up around 2/3 of the way because it really didn't say or do anything we ain't seen before, only this time none of it makes any sense. It was kind of like watching The Green Mile. Do go on. Which was equally boring as this one, only this one tries to be funny also. It is not often I give 1 star, but this is just crap. Sorry, Eddie. I mean,
The Green Mile.
I was like, we set a high bar at the opening of this episode for making comparisons that probably hadn't been made before.
And that happened a few times in this episode.
It sure did. And this reviewer really... The Green Mile, the death penalty movie about a stand-in for Jesus Christ? That Green Mile? Spoiler alert for The Green Mile.
That's why we have the spoiler warning. The title of this one, so 1 star out of 10, titled, Why Anyone Would Cast Tituss Burgess is Beyond Me. Written by Max Galan on October 25th of 2019. Oh my god. The movie was only okay, probably because of the Tituss Burgess's character. Poor casting, including that loser hack, in parentheses, Tituss Burgess, in this film. He is a horrible human being in real life, and his lack of talent really shines through in his abysmal performance in this role. Can he even consider himself middle-aged? He's really past his prime and fat, so fat.
Okay, Max, get that wonderful man's name out of your whore mouth. What did Tituss Burgess do to you, sir? Or ma'am? What did he do to you? Did he not pose for a selfie with you? Like, what is the problem?
I mean, this is the kind of hate that comes from heartbreak. This feels personal.
It feels very personal, and also, like, our celebrities owe us nothing. They don't owe us anything. So I don't even know how you know he's a bad person, unless it sounds like someone broke up with someone else or something. I have one more.
Okay.
This is a 1 out of 10 stars, titled Dry, written by Spencer D97 on November 30th, 2021. I don't know what others see in this film claiming, quote unquote, Eddie's back. This is possibly his driest film, except for Meet Dave. Every other word is a swear word. Now, if that's what you have to do to get the public on your side, then Steven Seagal's Against the Dark film should have won every Oscar when it came out. Eddie Murphy is a great actor, and if someone thinks this film is great, then you're just diminishing his skill. Completely deserves Stray, caught there by Steven Seagal.
Spencer D97 thinks he's much wittier than he actually is with his Steven Seagal illusion.
I mean, I'm always happy to make fun of Steven Seagal. Do not get me wrong. I am thrilled, given the opportunity to mock that man and his career because he is a bad person. Once again, an episode of Behind the Bastards is very good about Steven Seagal. Do not confuse these two men, please. One of them likes to hang out with Vladimir Putin. The other one gave us Coming to America and Coming to America and a lot of other good movies. So other stuff you should watch instead.
I think Dolemite Is My Name is a really fun movie, and it can be enjoyable to people who might not necessarily get Dolemite.
I agree. I really enjoyed this. I think people should watch Dolemite Is My Name. I think they should watch Dolemite. It's free on Tubi right now. Watch it.
But we both know lots of people we wouldn't recommend Dolemite to. I would not recommend that my parents watch Dolemite. I don't think they'd like it.
Yes, I would say like the boomer class, I would not recommend that too. But if you enjoy a movie with people just trying their best, it is a treat and I would recommend it. And still reading The Power Broker. So also, retractions and apologies in listener mailbag. Before we go, we do have to apologize for something we said in a previous episode that turned out to be misinformation, and we are sorry for this.
Sometimes we're wrong.
Rena, what were we wrong about?
Last week on our episode about Selma, there was a reason that came up to refer to Martin Luther, as opposed to Martin Luther King, where I said that Martin Luther nailed his theses to a wall. Martin Luther did not nail those theses to a wall. He nailed them to a door.
I'm aghast.
I know, and I guess
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
I should have remembered that.
Yeah,
it was a door.
I'm sure you'll get to use that on me at some point.
Yeah, but I said it, and I'm the one who loves stuff from 500 plus years ago. And now I feel mortified that I can't, off the top of my head, remember the number of theses or the name of the door, or I cannot remember with the absolute certainty that I know things like my birthday, that it was a church door. I'm pretty sure it was the door of a church.
I think you're right. And it was like 73 or 93. I feel like there's a 3 in there.
Boy, I have to look this up now. My confidence in my intellect is broken. 95.
Oh.
And he nailed them to the door of Castle Church in Wittenberg, Germany on October 31st of 1517.
Well, we got the church door right there.
Are you sure it wasn't a Halloween prank, that like the whole splintering of Christianity doesn't stem from a Halloween prank?
It's very possible, because the splintering of Christianity is full of a lot of nonsense, but it's possible that it was a prank that went too far.
And then he just had to keep running with it. Okay, with that,
yes.
I think we have some money grubbing to do.
We do indeed.
Yes.
Yeah, our podcast baby has matured into a toddler, and we have launched a Patreon, simply an effort to defray some of the costs associated with bringing our show to you. That's platform hosting, recording, equipment, research. We have to occasionally order a book off the internet. We also sometimes have to pay for movie rentals. And sometimes we may want to see a movie in theaters, or we may have to pay for transit to see each other if we want to record in the same place at the same time. For now, we are offering shout-outs and access to our awful first 3 episodes to anyone who chips in for us. And with that, we'd love to thank Brandon and Gates, who have signed up already.
Thank you, Brandon and Gates.
Thank you, Brandon and Gates. If you like the show, please leave us a 5-star rating and subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and tell a friend, or better yet, plural friends, and share us on social media. We hear it helps. You can follow us on Threads, Blue Sky, and Instagram, where we have visual aids from our episodes. Our Instagram handle is at biopicapodcast. So do check us out there, and we'll link to that in the show notes as well. Please also check out our webpage at biopicapodcaststory.podbean.com to see the official episode ratings for all of the movies that we have done so far. If you would like to get in touch, you can email us at biopiclistenermailbag@gmail.com. Our theme music is by Ben Patch. The intro is his song Slater Cannonball, and the outro is Spring Breakers, and you can check him out on Spotify. And as a reminder, we will be speaking at Intelligent Speech Online, which is taking place February 28th. And tickets are available now at intelligentspeechonline.com.
Enter biopic, that's BIOPIC, at the checkout for 10% off, because we sent you.
Indeed.
And tune in next week, when we'll be on the 4th and final film in our Black History Month 2026 series, Hidden Figures.
I am so excited to watch this.
Yes. So Good night to the earnest and the cynical.
Good night, Rena.
Good night, Sarah.